Hi everyone, this is Lara Hammock from the Marble Jar channel, and today we're going to discuss the dreaded sex talk with your kids. I am by no means the perfect sex talk parent model, and certainly not from the beginning. I always knew that I wanted to have an open dialogue with my kids about sex eventually, but I was squeamish just like everyone else. For the longest time, I let my kids think that babies came out of an incision in the mom's belly. I had 2 C-sections, and to be fair, they only asked specifically about their own births. When they were in early elementary school, I got shamed into doing a better job because our local Anglican priest, whose kids were around the same age, had already had this very specific and detailed conversation with his kids, and I refused to be bested by an Anglican priest. So now I'm a sex education teacher at my church. The church that I belong to is very liberal and takes the view that sexual education for kids is a spiritual and a moral requirement. I teach the 5th grade class, which is once a week for 8 weeks, but we also have a class for 1st graders that is similar in length, and then one for 8th graders that is every week for a full year. I realize that this is a baffling concept to many. First of all, what could you possibly have to talk about for that many sessions? And second, why is this happening in church? Aren't churches designed just to scare you into not having sex? The point of the program is definitely not to encourage the kids to have sex. In fact, the more information they have, the more resolute the kids are about waiting a good long time before having sex. But more importantly, we think that much of sex ed is about values, how you treat others, how you value yourself, how you communicate clearly, and how you make informed decisions. So the reason I bring all of this up is that I think these classes and these ages tend to correspond with basic age-appropriate conversations about sex. In 1st grade, conversations like where do babies come from, body part names, and also stranger danger. In 5th grade, the puberty talk about the wide range of normal when people hit puberty, sexual orientation, gender identity, and STIs, or sexually transmitted infections. And then in middle school and beyond, you have to talk about nudes, social media, porn, consent, birth control, bystander intervention, sexual assault, rape, pregnancy, etc. And here I'm sort of backed into my main point, which is this is not a one conversation, I've had the sex talk now and I'm done kind of a thing. One of your roles as a parent is, whether you like it or not, main sex educator for your kids. Think of it this way. If you're not teaching them, who is? And what is the quality and the messaging around that information? Believe me, you want to be involved in this. It's an important part of life. It's super confusing. And they need some good, solid, values-heavy direction here. Point number 2. This notion that the same-sex parent has to have the talk is pure nonsense. Whichever parent is either most comfortable or most determined should definitely be the person talking. Some families obviously do not even have this option. I have both a boy and a girl, and who do you think does the talking in my house? It's not comfortable by any stretch of the imagination, but it would be far worse with my husband, who is squeamish in the extreme on this topic. So moms, quit waiting for dads to pull Junior aside, and dads, same to you. Start these conversations with your daughters. Point number 3, use real words. Use vagina, breasts, penis, scrotum, I hate that word, and say have sex or sexual intercourse. Yes, you have to do this. Practice in front of the mirror if necessary to desensitize yourself. Believe me, it's better to do this from the beginning. Point number 4, keep it brief. There's this feeling that the talk needs to be this long dissertation-y monologue. That's not the way it should work. Answer one specific question at a time. I used to do the monologue thing, and I could see the kids' eyes rolling back in their heads and totally tuning out after about 3 minutes. Plus, with older kids, these topics can be highly embarrassing and kind of emotionally overwhelming, and they really won't be able to take in additional information after a certain point. So you can tell them to think about it and let you know if they have questions later. Many of them will not ask, so it's kind of up to you to keep bringing stuff up, which brings me to point number 5, talk frequently. I mean, I don't mean you need to be having conversations every day, but definitely not once and done. Most folks do, or most parents do, around 3. A quick talk about how babies are made in early elementary school, a puberty conversations, sometimes just for girls around their period, and then nothing until a birth control conversation in the teen years. Yeah, that's not enough. To be fair, I'm using a pretty wide definition of sex talks, basically anything that touches on sex or sexuality. This is honestly both for you and your kids. It desensitizes you both into using correct terms and talking about stuff together. So I recommend using news stories or TV shows to drive conversation. That's how we've managed to cover rape, the Stanford swimmer story, sexual assault, Bill Cosby and countless other celebrity villains, transgender issues, the North Carolina bathroom bill, gay rights, the Gay Pride Parade, abortion, slightly too old TV series, and prostitution, NPR News. I usually say something like, did you guys hear about the insert news story here? Do you know what that's about? Let me fill you in. Again, 3 minutes or less, unless there are follow-up questions. Point number 6, let them hide. These conversations are awkward at best. I have a lot of conversations in the car where you don't need to face each other. Another option is letting them put a throw pillow over their face. That tip actually came from a kid in one of my classes. They appreciate when you acknowledge how awkward the conversation might be, or in their words, cringy. It helps them get prepared and not feel totally blindsided. To recap, there are lots of conversations that you should have with your kids about sex and sexuality. It doesn't matter which parent does it. Force yourself to use the right language. Make the talks brief and frequent, using current events to drive conversation. Acknowledge how awkward this is for them and for you too. Even if you've missed some of the age-appropriate stuff, start now. It's more important in their teen years to have you to talk to. Let me know what you think. Leave your experiences and thoughts below in the comments section, and thanks for watching.